Well, good morning, folks. Welcome to another post. Decided to come down to the beach today. I don't know if the camera can pick up that beautiful cloud formation and the colour of the ocean across there. Some beautiful colours. It actually looks better from up on the lookout where I just was, but I thought they'd point that out. Unfortunately, this camera, as I've said, pushes things away quite a bit, so you may not be able to see those colours quite so well. So today's post is going to be about negativity. Interesting subject. And I'll start off by saying that part of the reason I picked it, it's a bit windy today, so I hope you can hear me all right above the ocean and the wind noise. I hope there's no wind noise in the mic, but I guess we'll see when we get back to play it back on the laptop. But I wanted to, the first thing I was going to start off by saying was that not feeling hugely positive myself today, and have struggled with a bit of negativity in the last few days, and also the post is partly prompted by the something that happened earlier in the week where there was someone who won an award and was giving a speech about acceptance speech, and as people do, and it was, even though it was meant to be an acceptance speech for an award, it was actually quite negative, the speech, and it came across a very negative tone. In fact, the guy sounded quite angry, in fact, which seemed a little bit strange. And I'm not going to talk about the award or what that was or anything. I'm not really into naming and shaming stuff. I don't think that's particularly useful, but I wanted to, it got me thinking about negativity in general and how it's become so pervasive, possibly almost a little bit fashionable. It'd be interesting to see what people think about that statement. Do you think it's become a bit fashionable to be negative, to be a little bit cynical, a little bit sarcastic, try to be clever all the time with the comments and things like that? And, don't get me wrong, I'm one for a good witty comment, a good clever comment, and I like clever humour for sure. But it's sort of hard to know where to start with this subject. It's a pretty big one, and I'm certainly not going to cover it all in the few minutes I speak here. But negativity seems to become quite pervasive in our society, and as I said in a previous video a week or so ago, if you watch the news, it's extraordinary how so many of the stories have such a negative slant to them, and as I said about, you have car crashes and fires and break-ins and all these things, and sure, these things happen in the world, of course they do, but by gee, there's an awful lot of good things that happen in the world. I really think I suppose it's a matter of where you decide you're going to focus, isn't it? I know I've got a friend of mine who won't watch news bulletins because he just finds them too depressing and negative, and I can't help but agree with him on that. I still watch occasionally, and I often ask myself why. But I do, and I honestly do wonder about the effect of the mass media, that mass media negativity that gets spread around the place, and the psychological effect it has on a population, for example, overall. It may not affect an individual so much, or to a greater or lesser degree, but I've often got to wonder about the effect of that at a sort of subconscious level, and maybe that's the reason why we're seeing perhaps more general negativity in the world. I'm not blaming the mass media for it per se. I've noticed over the years, I won't talk about it too much now, but I've experienced a lot of different things in my life. It's one of the reasons, as I said, I make this channel, make these videos and run this channel. But no, I've gone completely blank and I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it was too negative. I personally have struggled with a lot of negativity. I grew up in an environment that wasn't terribly positive from perhaps a parental point of view, and that's not to dump on my parents and my stepfather and mother and that sort of thing. They did their best in difficult circumstances. We've all got to make our life decisions and make difficult choices sometimes. But I often found whether it's something that we're sort of born with a bit, but I struggled a lot with the negativity, and I had to really learn to start to think in a positive way. It can be very, very sort of subtle and invasive, negative thinking patterns and things like that. I've often made a statement to somebody and they've reacted quite badly, and later I've sort of thought about it, reflected on it a bit, and thought, maybe I could see why they responded the way they did, because the statement was actually, quite negative. So, as I've said with several of the subjects now, I'm not going to be able to cover everything in a few minutes of video, and I don't really want to sort of go on for 20 minutes about negativity, that's for sure. I guess, as I said earlier, it comes down to a personal choice, whether you want to absorb a lot of that news and that media and other people's negativity, or whether you want to choose to basically rise above it and make a better choice. Make a better choice about how you're thinking about things, how you perceive things, and this goes for me too, of course. Actually, when I was driving here, I was speaking about driving last week, but I had a guy who did a U-turn straight in front of me. When I was coming at him at 50 k's an hour, he just suddenly swung around straight in front of me, and then had to slam on his brakes to avoid another car. I get a bit of a negative reaction with that kind of thing, and it's a really interesting exercise when I get that sort of negativity triggered. You know what I mean, the reaction you have. Clown, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. All the crap that the mind comes up with, and all the reactions we have, and the automatic programming kicks in, we start sort of going on about things. But I've learned over the years, when things like that happen, I've learned to, I often say to myself, come on Darren, refocus. What do you want to really be thinking about today? How do you want to feel today? What do you want today to be like? Do you want to spend your day feeling cranky about someone doing a U-turn in front of you and causing a problem for you? Or are you just going to refocus and say, well, that happened, okay, it happened, and move on? Interesting question to ask ourselves. So what do you think? Do you think negativity has become fashionable? Comments below. Okay, bye for now. Live well, stay happy.